So far, our work has focused on left to right horizontal text. But what happens if our text has a different orientation, like vertical text? This is where the writing mode property comes in. Writing mode may be used with orientation of each language, or it may be used for decorative purposes. Let's look at each of the writing modes individually. Horizontal TB means horizontal top to bottom. That would include languages like English, French, Spanish, German, and Arabic. Arabic is also right to left, so to include Arabic on your page, make use of the CSS direction property and or the HTML dir attribute. Vertical RL means vertical right to left. This would include Chinese, Japanese, and Korean as languages written in this orientation. This orientation also works well with English when read at a 90-degree angle. Vertical LR means vertical left to right, which would include Mongolian. English is more difficult to read in this orientation. In this challenge, rather than writing code, you'll be explaining the impact of writing mode on 4 text samples. Answer the questions as described in the comment in the CSS window. So if you take a look at your CodePen here, you'll see that we have a series of comments that are here asking you questions. And basically, we'd like you to explain those particular questions. What is the answer? It's going to point out some things that you may not necessarily notice about writing mode the first time that you look at it. So think about some of the answers to these questions based on what you know already about CSS, and pause the video to take on this challenge. Here's how I solved this challenge. So first of all, in our first box, we're asked to explain what role the writing mode has for Rex's bio. And if you take a look at that, it says that the writing mode is horizontal top to bottom, the direction is left to right. These are the default values for the writing mode property and the direction property, because that is the direction for English. So horizontal TB is the default value for the writing mode. So that's going to put that text from top to bottom and left to right as well for the direction property. And so that's what's going on there with Rex. In our second box, we're asked about the alignment in Dolores's bio. Why is it on the right side of the box? So Dolores's bio here is set to a writing mode of vertical right to left. So obviously it is in a vertical direction, but this is read from right to left. And if you think about it, even though this is English, we're going to start in the upper right corner, read down to the bottom here, then go back to the top of the second line and proceed from right to left here on the page. So that is why this text looks this way, and that is the impact of the vertical RL writing mode on the page. The next question has to do with the bubble bio, which looks kind of weird, honestly, with English, but it does make sense once you think about it. So this is the writing mode of vertical LR. So this is vertical text from left to right. So of course, we're starting on the left side of the box. And rather than having a chunk of text that's simply aligned to the bottom, like if we took Dolores's bio and simply pushed it to the bottom of the box, what we have here is something different. We are reading now from the upper left-hand corner of the box. We read down the line to the bottom of the box, then go back up to the next line from the left, read down to the bottom of that line, go to the top of the next line. So once you know how to read this, it actually works just fine for a vertical right to left orientation. It's just that with English, it looks a little bit odd, but if you were working with a vertical left to right language, it would look just fine. And finally, if you take a look at Fred's bio, as you can see, is set to writing mode of vertical RL, vertical right to left. It's text aligned to the end, and we have a padding inline start of 3 rem at the top of the page. And the thing I wanted you to notice is that Fred's bio is as tall as the display window. So as you see here, it is exactly as tall as the display window. And if I make my window shorter and refresh my CodePen, you'll notice that Fred's bio is once again only as tall as my window. If I make it bigger, it won't be, But if I refresh the page, Fred's bio is as tall as my window. What is going on here such that the layout takes up the full height of the display window? So the answer here is that the div displays as a block by default. Remember, it's a block level element. Block display means that the width of the block is occupied by the width of the containing element. If we think about this in the horizontal orientation, the width of the block is as wide as its containing element. So if we had a div inside of a body tag, it would be as wide as your browser window, most likely, unless you have CSS that overrides that. Our CSS width property on this div is not using a logical property. So with this writing mode, it's ignored, and the div occupies the full width of its containing element. In that case, it appears to be the height of the window. Remember, we're switching our dimensions here with logical properties. And because we're using width and not the appropriate logical property, which we'll discuss in a couple of videos, what will happen here then is that width is kind of like height in a vertical direction, and it will occupy the full height of that box. So those are some things to think about as you start to look at these writing modes. And probably a little bit more challenging than you thought, just trying to explain what's going on without actually writing any code.